Fox 4's Calvert Collins has been in more all day. Calvert, you've been talking to people. They've got such a heavy burden. What's their mood and how are they coping?
Will you be surprised, Clarice? They're remarkably resilient despite debris still lining their streets. In fact, the city looks remarkably untouched. You see pools of water, cars still parked in the same places they were yesterday when that tornado hit. Those 6 leveled neighborhoods just behind us, you can see that church right there. That is the beginning of one of the most hard-hit neighborhoods. And finally, those neighborhoods were reopened to residents to go through the clutter to retrieve their belongings, while the disaster relief groups like the Salvation Army, Red Cross, and 300 people from Texas and Louisiana begin the cleanup process to clear out this debris and destruction.
Yeah, when you turn into my neighborhood, it's pretty much looks like a war zone. It looks like an atomic bomb went off.
Heaps of wood and brick are all that's left to return to for thousands of more residents.
But well, you didn't go back into it. There's nothing there.
Within 15 minutes, Plaza Towers Elementary and the houses surrounding it were flattened by an EF5 tornado that at its widest was 2 miles across with 190-mile-per-hour winds.
All you hear is elementary school is down and your heart just breaks. You don't know who it is, what's going on, and it's just, it's heartbreaking. I feel for those parents.
It took hours for many parents to reunite with their children. Diane Steinman and her daughter Kristen Hoagland only reconnected this morning. The pair couldn't help but compare yesterday's storm to the twister of May 3rd, 1999, when Kristen was a senior in high school.
Instead of my friends being the ones in the schools, it's their children who are in the schools. It's a lot of the same teachers, though.
All night, the National Guard went door to door looking for survivors, marking checked houses with orange X's. Today, residents could only bring wheelbarrows or suitcases to salvage what was left of their homes. Santa Fe Avenue became a street of reunion for people and their pets.
She was by my room under everything.
He spent the night in a crate under a wall, and we just found him this morning.
Within the rubble, an ironic sight, a twister game tangled in an upturned tree. A tragic reminder of history repeating itself. But these survivors now know what to do.
You roll up your sleeves, you put on your boots, you grab your gloves, you clean up yards, and everybody teams together. We take care of watching each other's kids, and we get it done.
There is very much that get-it-done spirit. No one seemed disheartened. You know, we didn't see very many tears today like we saw last night when we arrived. You see a lot more bulldozers, backhoes, construction equipment here, Clarice, because it's now about the demolition process, because many of those homes, most of them, in fact, are not salvageable. We can tell you, in good news, power is back on, and especially at the water treatment facility. So now these people of Moore will be able to turn on their water, which they haven't had for the last 18 hours or so. And, you know, as awful as it was to see the pictures of the devastation at Briarwood and Plaza Towers Elementary, there is some good news. More high schools, all 3, will have their graduations this weekend in Oklahoma City.
Fox 4's Calvert Collins has been in Moore all day long, and I know you've been talking to people, Calvert. How are they doing?
You know, I'm just very impressed, remarkably well. They're not focused on the destruction. Of course, it's all around them, but they're looking forward. You know, many of them have been through this before, not just the massive tornado that struck 14 years ago, but far more recently. And they're so grateful that so many state, local, and regional agencies have come here to help, and now they're looking to rebuild.
Let's say, you know, by the grace of God, we were pretty fortunate, you know, that we got our lives. We know some of the people that live in this neighborhood, you know, and we've just been trying to call them and trying to find them, and we can. So I just hope that they're okay.
A sentiment felt by many in this town of 56,000. Friends, family, and neighbors lost their homes, schools, and businesses to 200-mile-per-hour winds. Even walking around the devastation, the resiliency of these people is ever present.
It's amazing that the people rallying together. It's just heart and spirit.
Recent Dallas transplant Paula McElhaney was relieved to see that despite the destruction, residents found ways to cope as others retrieved their belongings.
I took my dogs on a walk around the neighborhood, and I actually saw kids playing basketball in their yard, and so it actually had a sense of normality for the first time.
While the search teams like Texas Task Force 1 scoured the rubble, knocking on storm shelter doors looking for survivors.
This could happen in our backyard. It has happened in our backyard. So anytime that we can take a community that has had a damage and a hit like this to them and just make it a little bit better, because we've been there.
This group of volunteer firefighters and paramedics are part of FEMA, and the agency's director says part of the recovery is helping the people of Moore move on.
When the president declared the emergency last night, one of the programs we turned on was assistance for individual and families who don't have insurance. And that's really going to be our focus on those families who didn't have insurance that need assistance, particularly with housing assistance, rental assistance, and then supporting local governments as they start picking up debris and cleaning up from this.
But that wasn't the focus of this volunteer barbecue tonight. No one was thinking about the months down the road. They just wanted to enjoy their burgers and their friendships.
Move on, and help each other out like we've been doing for so many years, and life goes on.
Yes, it does. And, the immediate need is to get so much of this debris out of the way. I mean, it's just everywhere, unfortunately. But as you mentioned, Heather, Moore Public Schools has canceled the rest of the school year at all of its schools, but there is still going to be graduation for all 3 high schools this Saturday in Oklahoma City. I mean, you've seen the pictures. Words they don't even do it justice. You're going to see our video from there in just a second. I wanted to show you, this is the bowling alley where many of the kids who lived in those 13,000 homes would come on weekends for fun. But now this is the new normal for this town, and residents here do want the world to know that they are not giving up. 146th Street is ground zero. No neighborhood sustained more damage than the one surrounding Plaza Towers Elementary.
The tornado did this to our house, and I can't believe we got through all of this.
Families who raised their children in these houses, who fled to nearby storm shelters for safety, are now left combing through their belongings for meaningful items to save.
We found our Bibles, we found some photo albums, stuff that we didn't grab when the sirens hit.
Nate Mallett was at work Monday afternoon. His wife and children ran to his in-laws' house because they had installed a storm shelter after the deadly twister of 1999.
We're grateful to be alive today, and you can't take this stuff with you.
His neighbor's truck flew into his maple tree, another into his bedroom. While scouring the rubble, Mallett got an unexpected visit from a famous resident, Oklahoma City Thunder center Hashim Thabit.
You're a lot taller than
The team visited injured kids at a nearby hospital yesterday and walked the neighborhood today.
What's been tremendously uplifting is the spirit and the faith of the people that have been affected, and how their immediate thoughts go to the people that have been harmed.
Our house is like this, so...
Like 7-year-old Lauren Matthews, who survived the storm at Briarwood Elementary, another school that took a direct hit. Standing on top of her family's house, she's documenting the destruction with a camera because she wants to remember how this tornado tore up her town.
If I get my new house, and I can always look back and I'll be like, dang, that our house was like that, but now it's all new and built.
Tomorrow was supposed to be Briarwood's last day of school, so Lauren is still planning to go up to see what's left of the school and to see who's there.
So I'm just going to check on my friends and say, are you okay? Did they took your house? And I'm just going to say, is there anything you need? Most of us know only if we stick together we'll get through this.
And Clarice, as you walk around those neighborhoods, you saw the video there. It's amazing what survived. You see these bowling balls. I saw a pasta pot, plates. It was just truly unbelievable. Yet cars are thrown around. They look like balls of aluminum foil. But this town is just, the resiliency is so apparent. And one thing the police officers who've been guarding all these entrances to the neighborhood have told me is they're unbelievably impressed by the volunteer effort that came almost as soon as the first responders did, with water, food, clothing, clothing, anything that these people needed. And that's certainly what so many of the residents are echoing. We mentioned the Oklahoma City Thunder star forward Kevin Durant donated $1 million of his own money to the Red Cross to help in these recovery efforts.
Fox 4's Calvert Collins has been in Moore, Oklahoma since Monday night, and today, Calvert, you and some other folks got into that hardest hit neighborhood. What did you see?
Well, Heather, it really was ground zero. It's amazing looking at that devastation that anyone survived. This is the bowling alley, and it has a couple of telling things. You know, it's just a pile of tin and steel, but below it, you can even see the alley lanes that are virtually untouched, and we saw that throughout this neighborhood, and we noticed something else. Nothing is where it belongs. A truck wrapped around a tree, a mangled street sign lying in a yard, a torn American flag hanging on a branch.
I have a car in my backyard that I don't know, and I have a truck in my front yard that I don't know who it belongs to.
The residents of 146th Street are all accounted for, helping each other comb through the piles of wood and debris for photos, Bibles, and other personal items.
My wife passed away last year. I had just set up a memorial photo album for her on Sunday night and put it out there. And that was the one thing that I was really looking for. And we found it just before we went home last night.
Monday's tornado was the cap to an awful year for Scott Balliot. After his wife's death in June, his family in New York lost their homes in Hurricane Sandy. Then his stepmother was diagnosed with cancer. He's very ready to move on, but could spare a laugh when uncovering a surprising item in the rubble.
We found one of the little tornado in a bottle that survived. That had to be the funniest thing that we found.
Next door, 7-year-old Lauren Matthews is taking pictures, documenting the damage so she can put those photos on the wall of her new house.
It kind of feels a little miserable, too.
The second grader survived the tornado's assault on her elementary school, Briarwood. She remembers running through her family's house Sunday night. Now she stands on top of it.
And we're trying to get everything that we can. Because our house is like this, so it'll take about 2 years or 1 year to replace it.
Tomorrow was supposed to be Briarwood's last day of school, but it may be a reunion of survivors, and Lauren wants to be there.
I'm just going to check on my friends and say, are you okay? Did they took your house? And I'm just going to say, is there anything you need? Most of us know only if we stick together we'll get through this.
Just like I mentioned earlier, these bowling balls, just some of the small pieces that have survived that massive EF5 tornado, 200-mile-an-hour winds. It's truly amazing. But, you know, we saw as we pulled into this parking lot right off of I-35, lines of huge heavy equipment, big dump trucks. Heather, that's because those are going to start collecting the debris. We've already seen a little of it. It's just getting them all into the neighborhoods. One other thing, part of the disaster relief efforts, 2 local celebrities, basketball player from the Oklahoma City Thunder, Kevin Durant, has donated $1 million to the Red Cross efforts here, and then hometown boy Toby Keith, country music star, is also starting a huge team in that disaster relief to help his hometown.